Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of Health Talks with Dr. Trinh. The one show, the only show that talks about the most incredible things happening out there and the people making them happen. And today we're going to take on a little musical journey, I guess today, Dr. Trinh, is that right? Mm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, let me work on sharing the screen with you here. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, let's. Mm. Okay, well, let's hear it. Let's hear it. So if you can give me control back here, because I got to do a couple things with the feed here. So I don't know how to get it back here. Let's see. Am I okay? Let's see here, because I got the whole thing filling up the screen here. Well, all right. So give us some. Where did you record that, and how did you record that? Did you play all the instruments? And that's what I was going to say. Did you produce this yourself? Did you record it at home? Did you go to a studio? Okay. And were there any other musicians on the session, or just you and he? And did you record it like? Did you record it with home recording equipment, or go to a professional studio, or how did you record it all? Because it sounds very well mixed. I mean, it sounds very well produced. Yeah. See, that's what's amazing. 20, 30 years ago, I had aspirations once to be a musician myself. But you could write the song, and maybe even make a little kind of demo of it, but you had to go pay a bunch of money to rent a studio and an engineer and probably a producer. And then what? You had to make a CD of it. You couldn't put it on Spotify or something, and there was no way to distribute it. So it was very difficult for independent artists to get heard. Your whole gig was really just trying, I'm talking about the 80s, 90s, a while ago, but it was really just trying to get a record deal. And so you'd play and you'd send in demo tapes, and you and a billion other people. It's a real long shot. But today, the whole music industry's changed so much. There are people with large followings just producing stuff themselves and putting it out from their bedroom. Yeah. So how do you get people to listen to it other than your friends and family? Is it through social media? Do you actually send it to record labels? Do you send it to radio stations? Oh, yeah. I remember yeah, the story. The story I always tell is this is maybe, let's see, so we're in 2020. This is maybe the late 90s when I came to LA, from LA down to Orange County. And somebody, I don't remember how or what exactly, I owned a bar at the time here. And so I guess we were looking for bands to play in the bar. And I went to UC Riverside to a big, like, Battle of the Bands thing or something. And everybody there said, "Oh, you got to listen to this one band. They're really going to go somewhere." And it was Gwen Stefani and No Doubt. And I thought, good, but I don't know. I mean, it's like, how do I know? I mean, it wasn't quite what you hear later, with the raw materials there, but I couldn't hear through it and see it. And I thought, they toured for years in Orange County and around with very limited success. They built a local following, but it was the old-fashioned way. And I think her brother quit along the way. Her brother said, "I just give up. I got to do something with my life other than this." And she said, "There is nothing else." And she stuck with it, and obviously became very famous. That's a commitment. I don't know that most people have, even if they have talent, I don't know if they have that kind of commitment to stick with it for years and years and years and years and years like that. No. Yeah. And how do your parents feel about it? Because my parents were very unsupportive. They're like, "Oh, this is a long shot. Get a real job." Hmm. That wasn't her dream, right? Okay, well, I think that's an important part because I think it's hard enough to make it, but if everybody's saying, quit, because you obviously have talent. It's very genuine. It's a well produced song. Doesn't sound amateurish or whatever. It's still a daunting task, though. You know that to get an audience. And when you say an album today, is it just a collection of songs that you have on the internet, or is it a physical? Because there's been a return to print, to doing vinyl and other sorts of things. It's amazed me here. Hmm. Sure. It's a new world out there, Dr. Trin. They're writing records in their bedroom and and building audiences online. It is a different new world. I don't know that all of us really understand this new world where you can be an influencer, where you can, Justin Bieber. I mean, the classic. Didn't he was writing stuff in his bedroom and somebody saw him. I think it was, uh, yeah, somebody like that. And so, painter. Well, clearly. Is she gonna cut her ear off? I don't think so. Hopefully not. Right. So, I don't know if it was on this show or others, but we've had people come on in the past and talk about music therapy. There are people that it's actually a degree I think you can get, and helping people a lot of times with seniors and stuff, Alzheimer's, for example. Music helps them remember, helps them recall, helps them connect in a way that they can't remember. But a song, well, songs are so powerful. The emotions attached to songs, yeah. It, I didn't want to say that because I'm not that aware of what all of Taylor Swift's song, but it has that kind of vibe or feel to it, definitely to me. Would you ever consider moving to more of the one of the music meccas, Nashville, or up to LA, or up to Hollywood or something, and try and be where you can maybe network, rub shoulders, get in front of the right people easier? Yes, they can find you on the internet, but it's got to be hard. There's millions and millions of people doing this. I think that's critical. I think that was Taylor Swift's story. I don't remember. I remember reading her story once and something about she was like 14 or 15 and was doing demos or something. And her parents actually believed in her enough. I think she went to like Nashville because she was a country artist first. And they funded like a real recording on spec. And yeah. Well, and live music isn't what it used to be. There aren't lots of places. I don't know any places in Orange County. I mean, there must be a couple or a few, but there aren't a lot of places that people all go. When I was, again, the 80s and 90s, there was the Sunset Strip, and there were clubs on the Sunset Strip, and you fought hard to get into the Roxy or the Troubadour or whatever, because that's where the agents, the talent managers, and the A&R people came. Yes, they have people around the country looking too, but by and large, they came to certain venues over and over and over again because they can't be everywhere. They can't be in every town in America. Yeah, sure. I think you two should collaborate and create a song. Dr. Trink, can you sing? You have any musical talents here? I'll give you one resource you may not have tried or may not have thought of that is a good step for you where you're at right now, and that is there is a student radio station, a good student radio station at UCI, and their whole mission is to play stuff that doesn't get played anywhere else. That is the whole mission of all college radio stations, not to play the same stuff everybody. They will not play Taylor Swift on the station. They just won't because they feel there's already enough places to do this. So it's giving other artists a chance, just as these, and they're into their own curated list. So if you, they will, you can contact them and submit your music, and if somebody likes it, they'll play it and put you on their list, and then you can get on other college stations and stuff. That's a very powerful way to get heard that costs you nothing. No, they don't. They will actually play off. I was over there the other day because I was talking to them about internships and stuff here for what I do, and I went through the whole program. Yes, they most of the stuff they play. They do have vinyl and stuff in the studio, but truthfully, most of the stuff they play off of Spotify. Now, for some reason, Spotify doesn't allow them to play. There's some contractual thing, so they play it off of YouTube and some other things. But the majority of their music is from online sources. But Spotify, no, because there's some clause that you got to pay or something. Uh, there you go. JFK. And how did you find them? Did you just go through music publications or local online forums? Or I don't know. How do you find musicians these days? At the beach, you just walk along and say, "Hey, let's make a record," and they're like, "Okay, sure." Classic garage band. All right, I'll give you the permission again here because let me do it one more time. All right, so let's. I took it off because I have to somehow I couldn't see what I was doing if I couldn't get rid of your screen. But hang on. Hmm. Before you play it, I got to comment on it because I'm always curious how people create, and everybody has a different style and process. But I've met musicians. A million years ago, I represented the Police and did some other bands and stuff. I was an entertainment publicist, So and those questions would come up, and everybody would sometimes say, I don't know, it just comes to me. But the best story, I never met him, but I've heard him tell this story on television a number of times. Paul McCartney, the Beatles. I know I'm dating myself here, but probably one of the most successful bands of all time, next to Taylor Swift now. But anyway, and he said one day that their most iconic song, I think it was Yesterday, he literally woke up humming the whole thing. And he went around to people and said, "What is this? I can't get this out of my head. What is? I know I heard this somewhere. What is this?" And they all said, "I've never heard this before." And he kept saying, "Well, come on, I." I mean, I hear the whole song. There's the whole thing. He didn't have the words, I don't think, but he had the whole song, and it just literally came to him that way. Do you ever have that kind of experience? Does it just, you say that just comes to you? It just, people say that it's hard for Dr. Trin and I to believe that Dr. Trin's going to wake up tomorrow and that song you just wrote, he's going to be humming, saying, "Yeah, I got it. I hear the whole song." Is it right? I don't either. Yeah, right. It feels like that. Mm, yeah. Okay. Okay. There you go. What is it, Dr. Chin? What she only got a few of? What she only got a few of? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. So, have you ever thought you're in the drama department at UCI? There must be people making student productions, student films. That's a real powerful way to get independent music heard too, because for two reasons. One, they usually are young and they want to use somebody different, just like the young DJs at UCI's KUCI. But they also want to license it. So if I have a big song in an independent film with a low budget, afford I can't afford Taylor Swift. So I have to use either music I create myself or find music that fits that feeling that I'm doing. And they're looking for something new and different. They don't want to be the same as everybody else. So they're looking for new. They're young and looking to help artists break out. I know a lot of artists that do that. That's their first breakthrough as they get on, and they're you can go through modern films today, particularly more indie films, and they all have artists you haven't you don't recognize, but that's what they like. Oh, sure, yeah, that's a little harder to get into, but yeah, you can. There's all these little subgenres. We had a couple of guys on. We had some guy on. I'll tell you who we had on a while ago. We do a show at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and for some reason I guess he performs a lot for that group at functions. But his claim to fame is he's Carlos Santana's nephew. So the famous great Carlos Santana, the guitarist who's been around since my era, since Woodstock, his nephew, I think it's his nephew, and he was on American Idol. He got into the top 20 or something here. So he had some success, and partly because of the name, partly because, and he's talented. He's definitely got talent and everything here. But he was talking about some of these things, how other venues like that to open up. Yes, play anywhere, go anywhere, be anywhere. You never know what's going to come out of it. But he really recommended films and trying to get your music that way. Because now it's not just you pushing the movie or your music. There's a team that's pushing that film, and if the film takes off, your music takes off with it. Yeah, yeah, that says something. Most of these venues are pretty small. You get in front of 25 or 50 people. That's kind of a typical crowd. It's a coffee house, it's a restaurant on a Friday night. There is a I'll have to think of think if I can think of the name down here. There's all these really unique structures these days. There is a recording studio in Lake Forest whose name escapes me. I'll think of it. It's their family name, and his parents started it, and they were not recognizable names, but well known. They played on lots of tours. I don't know, the Eagles, or they would play in bands and toured around the country. But you wouldn't know their name because they're just the side people in various bands here. I don't know if it was the Eagles, but it was bands you'd recognize. It was in from the '80s and stuff. And they took that money, what they made, and they lived in Orange County, and they opened this recording studio to try and discover things. And they do have, I don't exactly know how it works, but it's sort of like a first look. So that if they sign you, they at least have a major record label that they can that will listen to this stuff. It's not guaranteed that they'll distribute it, but they have their ear. They have their way in. I have to think of the name of it, and they do a variety of music. Now, obviously, the recording studio, they're trying to get you to record there too, and pay for their studio time. But they do have there are lots of unique arrangements like this. They're not a real label. I mean, they're a label, but they're not a real label in that they're not distributed worldwide. But they have an agreement that some of their stuff will get listened to. If I'm maybe I'm explaining it wrong, but it's something like that. Yeah. And I don't even know what a label does anymore because a label used to be they paid for the recording sessions and then they printed the record. Somebody had to pay to print all this stuff, and that's what you needed the label for. And then they had the distribution so they could get it played on the radio stations and they could get it into Tower Records or whatever. All of that's broken down in the age of the internet. People aren't printing and buying records. They don't go to record stores. Radio isn't the main way that people are getting discovered anymore. Um, it's it's I'll give you another strange. Now you're making me think of all these other unique stories like yours that have come across our desk in the last couple of years here. Because we're not a radio, I mean, we're not a music station. We're a talk channel, a business talk channel mostly. And we had a girl. What is her name now? Um, Jasmine Star, I think is her name. Her actual name is Star, and she wants to be a star. And I mean, that's her like real family name. Anyway, and she was at either the high school performing, or the Orange County performing high school for the performing arts, that one, or there's another one sort of like it that's a private one. I think it was that one. But anyway, she was there, and she was kind of she's a rock and roller. She's about your age, and she just shreds the guitar like most girls don't. And she started making YouTube videos where she recreates famous guitar licks from the '80s and '70s and stuff here and everything. So she plays these things note perfect, Van Halen or whatever, all these things you should and complicated things. And out of that, WRIF, the remaining rock station in the LA market here, saw her and gave her a special thing. And she's not played on the radio, but she's on their website, and they highlight her and they talk about all of this music and stuff. And I thought, what an improbable path from a performing arts high school to somehow a real radio station heard you but didn't put you on a playlist, but said maybe this is the kind of stuff we'll create for our channel. Go look up WRIF and see. Another totally wild, unbelievable. How do you get from there to here kind of connection? So you never know what'll open the door. Right. Yeah. Well, if you hang in there long enough, the opportunity will appear. Now, whether or not, that's the moment and it's the right person and the right time and you present in the right way. You got to, you get your 60 seconds in front of the right person here. You don't get a lot of time in front of them. But a lot of it is just persistence and hanging in there. And I think so many people, a lot of people with talent. You look at American Idol. You never hear of 99.9% of them ever again, or America's Got Talent, or The Voice, or all these shows. I'm flabbergasted at the talent that's floating around out there. And yet, what is it that's holding those people back from success? They've got their moment of in front of an audience. It's partly because there's no straight path, and partly because I suspect there's they give up. Right. So I'll give you one more. I don't know why I'm sharing these stories, or maybe this will help you. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to, give you some real ideas and stuff here. So I'm much older than everybody here. I'm in my mid 60s. So grew up in the 60s and then the 70s. And there was a straight career path. You played clubs to try and get on a record label. That's all you did. You couldn't sell your own music. There was no internet. There was no way to get heard or found. The only way to get on a record only way to get in a radio station and to build an audience was to get on a record label, and the only way to get a record label is audition, 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 audition until somebody finally saw you. So I gave up. I quit along the way. I said, I take my shot at it. We came to LA. Friends and I had a band, and I said, I quit. The one guy didn't quit who wrote the music, and he took every job and was poor and broke most of his life. And yet, he finally, a couple of years ago, like, he did what's a forgotten genre called progressive rock. Genesis and Yes, and all these bands that were big in the 70s when I was around. And he kept in there, not only pursuing this passion, he was very good, very talented. I mean, there was no doubt he had talent. He finally got a record deal on a unique record label in Europe that is just for sort of reviving this progressive rock scene, this forgotten kind of music of the 70s something. And now he's actually tours and makes some money at it. And they just went out in Europe and did a European tour and stuff here. They found a niche and an audience for it. He writes all this stuff. You can look it up. It's called Spock's Beard, and they're very well known and very successful in that little niche. But he said the quote he said to me a couple of years ago. He said the good news and the bad news is I finally got what I dreamed of at 60 something. And he said if you had told me that I would finally get a record deal, but it would take me 50 years to get it, you know, I thought that's what this is about. So it's passion, it's believing, it's not quitting, it's never say die, even when the road ahead looks dark. The ones that truly succeed, uh, he's like, for him there was no other choice, there was no other option. This was it. And that's why I realized I look back sometimes and said, gee, I wish I had, stuck with it or done something. But I'm like, I didn't have that kind of, I liked it. I wanted to do it, but I wasn't willing to give, I say it takes 150%. It's like going through med school or other sorts of things. It's a commitment way beyond what most people are willing to put into it. And when you commit that deep and that long, then you're all in and there's no going back. Right? Then just push everywhere and as everywhere you can and try every door. And when the front door doesn't open, look at the back door and then go in the side window and anywhere else. It's not a linear path to success in that industry, like you said. Well, best of luck to you. Anything you want to play as we go out here? A little short segment, maybe it's something, just a short piece. All right, I think I took it back here again, so let me give you, you still got it? Okay, there you go. All right. All right, this is Priya Svens. Oh, before you play it, where do they find it? Listen to it, give us your name, and okay, okay. And soon to be heard everywhere. I say go over to KUCI. That's my recommendation today. Go talk to them. Well, I'm glad we do know you, and thanks for joining us today. Okay, that's it for this week's Health Talks. Come back and hear more, and we'll talk about other wild, healthy looks at life and what it takes to find that happiness in your life here. Okay, thanks so much.